If anybody has any questions off the top of your head, feel free to jump in. This is meant to be, as interactive as possible. So whoever wants to break the ice, give it a go.
Or if you want, I can just keep talking. I got a lot of stories.
This is Kristen. I have a question. So, how many iterations did you go through in order to get to the current model of how GigKloud works? And can you talk a little bit about starting it and what that was like and lessons learned along the way?
Oh yes. So I'm looking at our app, our Bitrise, which every time I build a new version of the app and release it, it versions it and counts it, and we're at version 3.1.184. To keep it simple, it all started with I raised the money. I met Joseph. We hired an outsourced developer to build the version 1 of the app. That developer turned out to be very expensive and very slow, and a lot of bugs came with it. But we got through our first cohort with that in 2019. And by the end of the year in 2019, it turned out that there was just too many bugs, and it was becoming way too expensive to keep up with the bugs, just to fix the bugs with this outsourced developer. Finally, the app just crashed. It went down at the end of 2019, and it was because the developer had made another mistake, which they didn't upload to our Git repository the appropriate version that was our source version. So when it came time when they went to fix it, it was an old version that was just way back. And at that time, I didn't have the appropriate skills. I was very technically savvy, but I didn't have the skills to fix it. So I used my GI Bill, and I enrolled in a 16-week software engineering course at General Assembly. Within 6 weeks of me graduating that course, I had rebuilt the app, rebuilt the website. We launched with new features. And from that point, we're into 2020 now. From that point in June in 2020, I've been adding new features and fixes essentially on a weekly basis since then. Our process is, we speak to our users. Joe we split our work up. I do the tech side and the workers, and Joe does the client side and the sales. So when an issue comes up, or sometimes we just survey an interesting client who is essentially giving us feedback, we'll sit down and have a conversation with them, and we'll see, hey, what do you love about this thing? What do you hate about it? What's preventing you from sharing if you haven't shared it yet? And by asking questions like that, we gain insight into how we can improve the app. And during that second cohort, the last 7-8 months from today, we were actually able to increase the retention that we were seeing and increase the amount that each of these clients were willing to spend on a monthly basis significantly. So that's our process, our iteration process thus far.
Wow, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome, Kristen.
So that test, learn, and iterate is something that's obviously, it's sort of second nature to startups. The process is supposed to be rapid. It's supposed to be fluid, and it's supposed to address very specific needs. And it's been an incredible process so far. And the fact that William, as the both visionary for the company and the product developer, that combination is so rare to have that in-house that it gives us an incredible competitive advantage over anybody else that's at our stage who's going to be spending a fortune on doing that at the base level. And we can expand on that, much more. Does somebody else have a question in here?
Yes, my name is John. How are you?
Hi, John. Doing well. How are you?
Good. A good friend of mine, family friend, has turned me on to participate in this call. And I guess I'm an employer of about 120 people in Massachusetts. We own a construction company, and within our company, we have obviously many different facets of levels of talent that we need in our company, and we're dealing with the same thing. We have a booming industry right now. The construction industry, because of COVID-19, is just straight out because everybody's doing home projects, and they're trying to put in pools because they're stuck at home with their kids, and we need project accountants, we need laborers, we need project managers and things like that, and we use many sources to get extra help when we need it, whether it's summer help from kids that are on college break to help spread landscaping products, or we use Monster or Indeed and a few other sources to try to find talent either on a temporary or full-time basis, as well as temp agencies. So what kind of spiked my interest, and I haven't completely explored the background of the company, but are you guys targeting a certain type of industry with your platform, or is it basically to try to fulfill the needs of any companies, whatever their company might be seeking? Is there any kind of a target on an audience?
So, wonderful question, John. So, in terms of competitors, we're putting ourselves up head-to-head with the staffing agencies and the big ones.
Manpower Group, Labor Ready, Adecco,
and Manpower
Robert
Group.
Half.
So these are like several billion-dollar companies, and they have this hold on temp labor, which is just this flawed, archaic model. The industries that we deal with. I'm sorry, John. Did you want to say something?
No, I mean I'm nodding my head on the other end of the phone because we've actually used them before, for finding project accountants and for things in our company where pretty much anybody can come in and do it. You sit them down with your computer system after 8 hours of training, they pretty much have an idea of how it operates. And we now steer away from them because, if you find a really good employee and you try to hire them full time, which is usually their desire to find placement, it's so expensive to buy them out of their contract.
Right.
They're stuck, and we're stuck to not make a decision. And I'm kind of wondering how you guys are.
The buyout clause is one of the big problems with the staffing agency. So for those who may not know, if you're using a temp staffing agency to bring on a worker, and you just turns out that you love that worker, you want to bring them on full-time or part-time, well, you have an agreement, a contractual agreement to pay the staffing agency $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to buy them out of their relationship with that worker. GigKloud doesn't do that because we don't need it. We're positioning GigKloud so that an employer like yourself, you could try out instead of going on Indeed and Monster and just shooting and shutting your eyes and hoping you get the right worker. You could come to GigKloud. You could post a shift in minutes, and you could try 4 or 5 people, and you can see how they work during the day. And the ones that you like, you can keep them. You can take them on staff, and we don't charge you a buyout clause because we believe in 2 things. 1, that you're going to come back because of it. And 2, our workers, they love the flexibility of GigKloud. So even though he comes and works for you full-time or part-time, he's probably going to still stay with us on the weekends or, when he has a shift free.
Okay.
I just want to answer the other part of your question in terms of industry. We do have a focus on industry. So most of our workers right now, we're optimized for non-skilled and semi-skilled work. We're not optimized for accountants or web developers or anything like that, but we are optimized for fulfillment, moving, events.
Construction and construction,
and
landscaping, and day labor are 2 of the. Those 3 are probably the biggest draws. Obviously, like you said, the industries are booming right now, and seasonality and cyclicality of the businesses give a sense of it just makes sense for those businesses because turnover is high, finding good labor is difficult, and like you said, it's expensive when you do find somebody great through a temp agency. So there's just to clue you in on a little bit on like what my sales process is like. If I spoke with you on the phone, the next few questions I'd ask you is tell me a little bit more about what are the challenges that you're having with finding those people, and go down a list of understanding of what challenges you have and how we can meet them, and all the while, like I was mentioning a few moments ago, knowing that if there's something that comes up in your challenge set, it's going to be, it'll throw a little flag in my mind to discuss it with William afterwards and say, how can we solve this problem for John in a couple of weeks, as soon as you do that new round of development and build out this new feature that will help you. So there's a lot of
flexibility. Is there any kind of I don't mean to interrupt you. If something came to me right as you were speaking, I mean, is there any kind of a almost like a rating system you see in a lot of apps, like these babysitter apps where you can find people to babysit, they get a resume and all that? Because I mean, our biggest problem is it's not a highly skilled labor to do what we do, but it requires training.
Right.
So what we wouldn't want to do is, every week have a different person. We would hope to engage your company, hopefully repetitive business, post a job for 3 months, 5 months, or full time. Try the person out, make sure that they work. Obviously, there's no obligation on either our parts, right, to hiring somebody full time. But when we do want to make that move, we can, hopefully somewhat inexpensively. But I think for us, you want to have dependable people. And when we come across somebody that's not dependable, that doesn't show up or is late or is constantly having an issue, is there a way in the app where we can rate that worker?
Yes, so we created 2 solutions for this problem. One, if you need to train someone and you bring on someone that you've never met before and you spend 8 hours training them and they're now able to do that job, to your satisfaction, you can issue them a badge. And it can be, John's company's badge. And now that they have that badge, it goes on their profile. And now you can set it up where you only hire people who have your badge. You know who's been through your training. The other thing that we do is after every gig, a worker can review you, and then you as the employer can review the worker. So when you're thinking about picking somebody, you can look at their profile, you can see what badges they have, and you can see what reviews, what other people are saying about these workers. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's extremely intriguing. That's excellent.
Yes,
our badges range for things like a driver's license to anything to an OSHA 30 card to a background check, drug test. Now, we don't make any of these mandatory, but the worker knows that the more that they have, the more likely they're going to stand out and get hired. Same thing with the food service, the food handlers license is a popular one that people have.
There's a nice balance it creates in terms of keeping the marketplace self-regulated and transparent. Workers get to review employers just as the employer gets to review the worker. So if someone's being treated unfairly in the workplace, that's something that can be identified there, and having those ratings and reviews, kind of similar to if you hopped in an Uber, you'd see that a driver, they may have a 4.7, a 4.8, maybe they've got a 4.95, best driver out there, But after a while, as William likes to say, the wheat separates from the chaff really easily in that scenario, and you are left with the cream of the crop, and you won't see, if you get in an Uber tomorrow, you're never going to find a driver that's got a 3.9. They don't exist. They won't be on the platform anymore, and that's what we're building toward. And as we reach scale, we hit this sort of critical mass. We'll see that more and more, and the best workers will really shine.
Well, that sounds awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for your question, John.
Yeah, thank you.
I have a quick question, I guess.
Awesome.
For both of you. My name's Leo. I'd like to just ask you guys, where do you see your breakthrough coming from? You have any, maybe you must have a few ideas there.
Absolutely, Leo.
Yeah.
So our goal right now is, up to this point, we've been a 2-man team. we've been doing everything that we've built, everything that you see, the videos, everything, it was just done by us. The clients that we've landed, Joseph landed them. He's not a professional salesperson. He probably doesn't even like sales, but he's done an incredible job of getting on the phone, networking into these positions, and getting people to try us out. So going forward, after this raise, our number one goal here is to hire a professional sales team and just do what we've already been doing. We already have the marketing. We already have the sales funnel. We already have predictable conversion. We already know the cost of acquisition of a new client, and we know their average spend once we land that new client. And all we need is a professional person who can come in and hone and improve all of that. And get us to the point where we go from 6 clients to 100 clients, and 100 clients puts us at $3 million in annual GMV and $1 million in annual revenue, and that's just 100 clients. There are thousands of these companies in the United States alone that fit our profile and have this need. So the potential in the potential breakthrough comes from just getting professional salespeople and plugging away.
All right. And second question quickly. How do you got to this 30 plus, 1/3 revenue? But you pay the person, the worker, 88%. Can you help me understand
absolutely.
The math? Yeah.
That's a very great question because it will clarify things for everyone. So how we work, we're a marketplace. When an employer posts a shift, let's say it's an employer posting a $100 job on GigKloud. Well, the employer has to pay the $100, and then they're charged the 20% posting fee. So the employer ends up paying $120. Now, we take that $20 from the posting fee, and when the job is complete, instead of transferring $100 to the worker, which is what they're working for, we take a 12% service fee out of their earnings. So they end up getting $88. So basically, we make it happen by charging the fee on top of what the labor charges.
All right. There's a moment you're charging from both sides, like this is what you came up with. I'll give you an example. Why not charge more from the employer and claim in marketing? You can you pay out 98% to the worker or something.
Yeah, that's another great question. We actually get this question often, and the ideal is to charge the worker nothing and charge everything to the employer. But as we've been iterating, we have been playing with different balances. Where we started was 12%. When this first thing kicked off, it was 12% to the worker and 8% to the employer. And then we've shifted it, skewed it the other way, and now we're at 10 and 20, and we're looking for ways to get it lower on the worker side. We have to do it methodically, and we have to keep raising the price. Unfortunately, sorry, John, we got to keep raising the price on the employers until they start to complain and say, ouch, and that's when we know we have to bring it back a little bit.
There's a methodical approach to it, like William just said, right? We need to do it step by step to understand where that threshold lies and ensure that we don't go too far too quickly, or we actually push the bounds and understand what is the max an employer is willing to pay. Is it we're charging 20%? Maybe it's 35%. We have to find out where that is. So there's the methodical approach, and then there's also when you look at the benefit to the employer, which, Leo, I think is really what you're alluding to here, like how can we do the best for the employer and take the least on their end. You also have to look at it as it is a service that we're providing to a worker that otherwise doesn't have access to these options. There are lots of jobs out there that they may not be aware of, and they want this sort of flexibility and freedom. But by joining one platform, we can consolidate all of those options under one roof, give them the freedom and flexibility to see everything that's coming in, all the different work opportunities that are there. And as we grow, there are future potential to add in third-party ancillary services, benefits packages, things that will dramatically bolster the workers' kind of the net positive that comes to the worker. all facilitated by us, and the cost the cost when you roll that all together into one becomes negligible.
Just to add on to what Joseph's saying, or to continue with your question, Leonardo, the only reason why we're not pushing the employer's fee higher at this moment is because we don't want to upset the few clients that we have right now. When we have 100 clients, then we can definitely experiment more. But we don't want to lose any clients at this point because it's a very critical stage for us.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, what if, let's say, besides the problem of, let's say, buying out, right, the buyout problem, what are the other, big problems that you're solving? And I think of that like I'm thinking of the answer as a segue to the conversation we just had, right? In other words, to charge, let's say, 30% on employer, right? You have to, offer some perks, right? You have to justify that expense. And I wonder what other problems that you're solving that's worth 30%.
To understand how we get to the answer, it's understanding the temp labor agency and their model. Right now, the temp labor agency, when an employer comes to them and says, "Hey, I need 10 guys to come to my job site," well, the temp labor agency, they dictate the wage to the employer. The employer doesn't get to select the wage like they do on GigKloud. So the temp agency is going to say something like, "Okay, well, that will be $25 an hour. You got to pay $25 an hour." The second problem there is the employer doesn't get to select which workers actually show up to their job site. It just sends you some people. And these people may be, you may have one superstar. You don't know what you're going to get. And then the final problem here is that the workers that they send you, the wage that the employer is paying to the temp agency, the worker's only getting 60% of that. So the worker who shows up, you're paying $25, okay, but you're getting somebody who is taking home $15 an hour. So you're getting a $15 an hour quality worker, but the employer is paying $25 an hour, and they're expecting someone who has the quality commensurate with the $25 an hour employee, but they get someone with the quality that's commensurate with $15 an hour. That's a huge problem. And it creates a situation or a scenario where the workers just show up already tired and unhappy to be there. With GigKloud, one, the employer posts the shift. The workers apply if they're interested and available. The employer then gets to select, look at their profile, look at their badges, look at their reviews, and say, okay, I want this guy, and this guy. And when the employer posted that shift, they already told them, hey, this is $15 an hour. I'm willing to pay $18 an hour, whatever. But the employer chose. They already know their costs in the beginning. And then the employer gets to pick the person. And then that person just shows up and the money's automatically transferred to their bank account. But here's the thing. Yes, we are walking away with 32%, but no individual's paying 32%. And when you compare a W-2 employee to a 1099 employee earning the same wage, there's a 40% premium built in. A W-2 employee is 40% more expensive than a 1099 earning the same wage due to employment taxes and et cetera. We're actually giving you the ability to use someone in an on-demand capacity as opposed to having to hire a part-time person not knowing what your future outlook is going to be.
And you get to choose the price too, which is...
Yeah. The biggest win here, the net positive overall, is that it's a win for everybody. Because you could look at that scenario. If an employer wanted a worker and the temp agency says, well, you have to pay $25 an hour for this person, and then they go out and find a $15 an hour worker, the employer loses and the worker loses. The only winner there is the temp agency. So instead now, you as an employer on the GigKloud platform can post a gig for $20 an hour. It will cost you $24 with the 20% hour of 20% fee in there. It's only a savings of $1, but you're getting now a worker that is reaping the benefits of a approximately $18 an hour job. You pay less, worker gets more, and you get more for it. And that, that spread there there's an incredible amount of value in that small little spread.
Yes, and both sides gain more flexibility, which is a big part of the future of labor. I think that many people fail to realize. And another thing that we could help you, John, over in Massachusetts with is your seasonal workers that you hire for the summer and then they disappear in the winter. Well, you can use our platform to onboard those workers so you never have to go through the phone calls. Hey, are you available this summer? Are you available? They're just on the platform. And now you can even carry them throughout. You have the ability to post a job, and your workers who you know already who they are and what badges and skills they have, you could bring them back at a moment's notice just by posting a job. It will show up in the app. They have access. They'll receive a notification, and if they're available, they'll apply.
Okay. All these employees, our company would 1099 them. That's the idea.
Oh, wow.
They know that. Yeah. Okay.
Well, your company won't 1099 them. We would 1099 them. You will pay us. We act as the third-party settlement organization, as defined by the IRS. And the workers they're self-employed. They're independent contractors who are using, and GigKloud is essentially a jobs board that acts as a third-party settlement organization. So as the fact that you're paying us by credit card or bank account, and then a worker is showing up, they're not on your books, they're not your responsibility. We hope that you treat them well, but you don't have to worry.
That's another advantage right there, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's four. So it's four selling points.
All right.
There's another interesting example that William was talking about with the returning workforce, the semi-regular workforce, the alumni workforce, however you prefer to describe it. But there's there's two different things that come to mind here. There's an opportunity for businesses that are in complementary industries or similar cyclical businesses to effectively share the same workforce. So imagine a landscaping company and a snow removal company. Granted, many times those are one and the same, but two separate businesses. One operates in the summer, the other operates in the winter, in the Northeast at least. And you could effectively share a workforce, and neither one has to have the responsibility of having them on payroll full time. Other thought that popped into my mind to share is about the alumni workforce. Businesses, we've spoken to many businesses now after the effects of COVID, who they're starting to see their customer demand spike again, and they have unfortunately had to let go of a good number of their workforce, some of their best employees. These are people that they didn't want to let go. They would have been employed full time throughout the year, and they're talking to me about the challenges that they're having actually fulfilling their customer demand. Now, the conversation usually continues, and it's like, I'm concerned about how do I fill the customer demand? What can I do? I don't have enough. Business hasn't been good, so I don't have enough money to bring back my employees full time. The payroll costs are going to potentially sink the business that I worked so hard to save. And the answer, using the GigKloud platform, is an alumni product. It's invite your worker to join our platform and then hire them on demand when you need them and pay them accordingly. Pay them a premium even, because it's going to cost you less ultimately than bringing them on full time. So there's an opportunity to scale that sort of temporary fix that we created for a response to the pandemic. There's an opportunity to scale that at a much higher level, a much larger scale across many different industries, blue collar labor or not.
Yes, imagine you're a worker at a company, and this is you're doing the kind of job that requires a college degree or high skill, semi-skill, doesn't matter what the job is, and you have a life change that causes you to end that relationship for whatever reason. The relationship ends amicably, you go off to college, decide to start a family, whatever. Imagine if you could then still work moonlight shifts for that company. Imagine if that company could just add you by email to the GigKloud Hive Labor app, and whenever they need help, you get a notification in your app that says, hey, Microsoft needs you back for 1 8-hour shift. We're short on IT people this week. And although you're off pursuing your new life in college or with your family, you may still have 8 hours available. You may still have 4 hours available. You just don't have enough time for another a full-time job. That's what Hive Labor is. That's our next step. That's our ultimate goal, which will get us into enterprises and turn labor into something that is more like a utility that's piped into people's businesses.
Thanks, Leo and John. Kevin. Really appreciate that.
Hi, guys. This is Kevin. On the topic of contract labor and the 1099s, a lot of, especially state governments, have been looking, at companies like Uber and questioning whether an employee is or a contractor is actually a 1099 or an employee. What do you see as any potential risks to your model here, and what would happen to your business model if a particular state required the classification of these individuals as a W-2 employee versus 1099?
Great. Awesome. Really great question, Kevin. I'll use the California law that they passed, or the AB 5. The crux of that law is that, one, it's deciding whether a person is an employee or if they are an independent contractor. And the law is designed to answer that question, and they use two pieces of information to answer it. The first piece is being whether or not the person hiring the service, in this example, the person who needs a ride, gets to pick the driver that shows up. If you don't get to pick the driver, then you don't meet that criteria, and you are now more likely to be an employer, and that worker is more likely to be an employee as opposed to an independent contractor. Now, the second part of that law is whether or not the service that's connecting the two sides together, whether or not they're in the same line of business as the work being done. So again, in Uber's case, they are a company that connects people looking for rides with people who provide rides. They are basically a transportation company. And the workers are providing transportation. So they meet that as well. And that's what, using the California legislation, that's what that law is designed. It's saying, hey, these workers, they're not 1099 contractors. You're just skirting employment tax here. They should be W-2, and they should get all the benefits associated with W-2. So to answer directly, in that paradigm, GigKloud is not in the same business as, say, John, for example. He does construction. We're a job board. We're in the business of a job board. And the second part, the employer gets to pick the worker. We have no say. We don't just send you whomever. John gets to pick that person. So we don't meet either of those criteria. And therefore, we are on the other side of the coin as a third-party settlement organization. And I'll give you an example of other third-party settlement organizations like Etsy or eBay. If you sell something on Etsy or eBay, you are not an employee of those companies. eBay is simply connecting you, a buyer, with a seller and taking a little fee. And that's the buyer is paying the middleman with a credit card, and there is a complete disconnect between the buyer and the seller in terms of financial responsibility. That is defined, very well defined, in the IRS tax code, and it's not something that is experimental or gray. It's very black and white. If you are a third-party settlement organization, then the workers are independent contractors running their own business, and we are simply passing payments on to them. That's the criteria that we fit in. However, there is always the risk that some unforeseen legislation is passed that hurts us far more than the AB5. But right now, there's nothing that I know of in the pipeline. But in the way that we're designed as is, we're free and in the clear.
Oh, great answer. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. And John, thanks for being our guinea pig, our client guinea pig on this call.
Well, that's fine.
Sorry about that, John. You're the business owner. Well, I imagine there's a lot of business owners.
I'm sure many business owners, but thanks for letting us pick on you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else have any thoughts? Want to dig into any other topics?
Well, I'll go again. I have the opportunity. Can you talk about where you are financially right now? I've seen that over the past 3 or so months, it looks like it's profitable. Obviously, looking at the financials in 2019, I think you alluded to a lot of the startup costs earlier on. There are some other items in there, though, I couldn't tell if, renting and leasing and stuff like that, if there was a conscious effort to pull back maybe with COVID and leave space, or if there was anything outside of building out a sales team that you anticipate changing in kind of the expense structure or the cash burn.
Wonderful question. So throughout the majority of 2020, we were in WeWork Labs. We had a very modest rent fee of about $500 a month. When COVID hit, they encouraged us to stay by offering like $100 a month rent, something really ridiculous. And we were like, okay, yeah, we'll lock it. They locked us in for a year at some great rate. But ultimately, we stopped using the WeWork because of COVID. Nobody was going in. We have evolved to do everything remotely now. And we believe, we're starting to think that, hey, this is the future. Everyone has adjusted to working remotely, and there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to go back to the office. And we could keep costs down, and we could stay very nimble and flexible by just staying remotely and growing our company as a remote company. There are a lot of big names, Zapier for one, that are fully remote. And that's where Joseph and I think we should be headed and keep the business that way.
It allows us to operate, it will allow us to operate in an incredibly lean fashion. We already are, like William said, a two-man operation with whatever little help we've gotten on the side as short contract assistants. And building a remote-first company, it's not just beneficial for us, it's also beneficial for our clients as well. That actually, to Leonardo's question before, it allows us to make sure that those margins stay nice and robust for us, and it doesn't actually cause us to have to, overload one side of the marketplace. And contrary to Manpower, Labor Ready, Adecco, the biggest temp agencies on the labor side, the biggest temp agencies in the world, they have these little satellite offices all over the place, these tiny little strip malls on the side of the road where people come in and they put on their khakis and button-down shirt and they come with their resume and they say, I got laid off from my job at Sears and I'm looking for a new job. We digitized all of that. There is no need for that in the future. And it makes the lives of the workforce better. It'll improve our company's lean operations. And when we need to scale our operations, we could spin up new clients and a workforce in Los Angeles today, digitally. I can go out there and physically be on the ground for 3 weeks or a month or something of that nature. None of that will come even close to costs associated with maintaining a physical infrastructure anywhere, or certainly not a nationwide network.
And that's not hypothetical, by the way. We actually have had gigs in San Diego, Los Angeles, Albany. What's that small town in upstate New York, Joe, that we have a gig going on like every week?
Say that again. We just cut out for a second.
Sorry, the small town in upstate New York where we have running gigs.
Oh, it's in the Catskills.
Yeah.
There's one employer. This is a great example for everybody. We have an employer in Brooklyn, warehouse operation, who uses a remote location for their resupply warehouse. So their primary business is located in Brooklyn. They've been hiring workers from us week over week for months now. and got a phone call from the employer and said, here's the situation. We have this resupply warehouse. It's usually empty. We just need somebody there a couple hours a week. Doesn't even have to be during business hours. We just need someone who can use a forklift and is trustworthy. We want to interact with them a couple times, meet them in person. After that, they can operate on their own schedule. If they want to go do this 4-hour job from 2 a.m. to 6 a.m. on a Wednesday into Thursday morning, they could do that. And it's in the middle of nowhere in the Catskills, and that we were able to find somebody for that role, and it's consistent, it's recurring. It's so far it's been every Wednesday this year. So those kind of those are real life examples, and at scale, those are meaningful. Those are those 1 day a week jobs. Those are really meaningful at scale, and we're here for the resources in order to scale to do that.
Absolutely.
I think it's interesting. This is John again. Marketing, you're going to hire a sales team. Marketing is probably the biggest challenge, reaching everybody. But
sure.
Are you guys thinking about how you're going to, are you going to incentivize companies to tell other companies about it? Because companies are pretty well networked. In my industry, I'd say my problem is the same problem that 6 of my good friends have,
Yeah.
So if it worked for me, I would probably very quickly tell them, unless I was in direct competition with them. But,
that's a great point, John. I appreciate that, and I want to just interject one thing, and I'll let William take it. The sales and right now, marketing and sales are one and the same. Our approach is a sales marketing strategy. We're targeting very specific, our ideal customer profile, and closing them, securing those customers, and then elaborating on those markets as we continue to go deep and narrow into the industries that are in love with our product. We can go even further. And to illustrate the action of doing that, William will jump in here.
Yeah, so I mentioned earlier on that in early 2020, I attended the GA, General Assembly, which was the coding school. And after graduating that coding school, we made all these, we got the app back up, ready to go, and then we added some new features. One of the first features that we added was a referral program. So as an employer, when you log in to GigKloud, you will immediately see a referral link, and it says 0 credits, and it says, what are credits? ? And if you hover over, you'll see a tooltip that says credits are worth $30, and if you refer your friends with this link, you'll get $30 of free labor. So that's our solution. If you use this service, John, and you like it, you'll be able to send that link to one of your buddies. They'll sign up using that link, and every time they hire someone, you'll get $30 off the next person you hire. And they're good as cash, essentially. If you have 10 of those credits, you'll be able to just hire someone for a $300 gig. It's not like $30 off only if you spend X amount.
Right.
But that was a very important thing for us that we wanted to get out the gate.
And that what's great about that is it factors into our customer acquisition cost, but not more than our average gig value. So if you look at it like very, it's an incredibly strategic approach, but we understand what the average gig post goes for, and obviously what our revenue off of that average gig is. That $30 kickback, that referral bonus, is not more than the cost. It's either equal to or less than the cost of the revenue that we'll pull off of that next gig. So it's a way for us to expand at no cost. So the deeper we can go through a referral program on the employer side, this is key here, on the employer side, the more we can expand at no additional expense in terms of marketing or sales. And the reason why I specified that this is on the employer side is because every marketplace, the ones William mentioned, Etsy, eBay, Airbnb even, they all have challenges in supply and demand. Balancing supply and demand is the biggest issue that a startup marketplace will ever face. And our challenge in supply and demand is securing enough demand. The businesses that are looking to hire workers, securing supply is, and you have all seen this, I believe, on our Wefunder page. Securing supply for us is so easy that we have 15,000 workers who are on a wait list to access GigKloud. We can't flood the marketplace with 15,000 workers because there's not enough employers to employ them all. But what's amazing is that they're still, over the previous year of acquiring all of those workers in this wait list, they're still engaged, they're still interested. So much so to the point that in our private period of the crowdfunding launch, we have, tell me the exact number because I don't know off the top of my head, 2,500 or more.
It's at 2,700. 300 more came in while we're on the call.
So $2,700 so far invested from workers that are making approximately $15 an hour wage. They've invested their own capital because of how much they believe in the vision that William created over time and what we're trying to do to benefit the workforce.
Yeah, it's really just impressive. You think about it, these guys have been waiting on our wait list. They contacted us because they wanted work. They've been waiting for a year. And I sent them all emails, hey, this is what we're doing now, guys. We're just launching our Wefunder. We're raising money. Would appreciate any comments, support. And they come up with $2,700. And I was originally worried that the minimum on Wefunder was going to be too high for our workers to participate. I wanted it to be lower, like $20 or $25, but they wouldn't let us go that low. And right now, the average investment from our workers is $156, which is just like it makes me want to cry almost, that they believe in what we're doing. They see the value better than anyone else because they're the ones who need this service. It's just it's amazing. It's heartfelt.
Yeah, it's really it's humbling to see that, and it gives us a sense of We obviously have a sense of purpose. We have a direction. We know where we're going from a business standpoint. But it's deeper. It's emotional. It draws our attention to a new level of responsibility, and it's exciting.
And we're just really happy about the ability that crowdfunding now gives us to allow our workers to own a piece of this company.
Anybody have any questions about crowdfunding? Is that something that's that we can help with at all, or anything in terms of the fundraise itself? Just want to make sure we're covering all the bases, and you guys can pepper us with anything you got.
Hi, I'm from Sweden, and I am in Sweden, in fact.
Cool.
And
thank you for joining us so late at night.
No, it's okay. It's okay. I go up. I stay late. And the thing is, I try to search on my iPhone for the app, and it doesn't show here. I don't know the name. Is GigKloud also?
Yes.
The name?
Yeah. There's an easy explanation for that. Go ahead, William.
So as Joseph was talking about earlier, balancing the supply with demand, we have 15,000 workers who are looking for jobs, but we don't have enough clients to provide those jobs. So we've been keeping the app in a closed beta. So right now we've restricted it to only workers that receive a download link from me. However, during the campaign, we are making plans to launch the app publicly. So it is in both the App Store, the Apple App Store, and the Google Play Store. It's just that it's restricted to the public. We have come up with a solution, which will be putting a sort of code wall. So when you download the app from the public and it's available, you'll download the app and then you'll create an account. But you'll need an invite code to join. a lot of companies are doing this now where, the only people that can join are the people who have an invite. And this will allow us, to prevent the big problem of having 15,000 people join our app and then show up and say, oh, well, there's no jobs on here because there's 15,000 people. And every time someone posts a job, it's taken up. And so their experience will be very poor. And that's how we address that issue.
But simply from a visual experience, the 4 screenshots in a row that you'll see in the Wefunder campaign page, those are real screenshots. Those are live. That's what the platform looks like. Those are not mock-ups. Those are not digital or marketing material. That's really what's out there, what the workers are using today.
Good. Now we understand. Thank you. And the thing is regarding to invest the money, I just found a solution with a credit card because my bank is not working until next week.
Right. International transfers are a bit different. Yeah, they suggest you use a credit card to do so.
Yeah, even local transfers, they stop at 4 p.m. or something.
Yeah.
And they go to the next day, next working day.
Right.
And,
Well, thank you so much for that. Appreciate it.
No. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that was a question that I had in mind.
Sure.
Your app will work in USA, right? Like you cannot go global because of the laws.
Good question.
So our plan here is to focus. Right now, we just focus on New York City, and then our next step is to go nationally. And we do have plans to go global. One of the people or early friends of GigKloud on the team, and my friend from Japan, he now runs Tokyo Truck Guy, and we've talked about him using GigKloud solely for the purpose of bringing on his workers. He actually grew the business to 7 trucks and a lot of part-time help. And so that will probably be our first step. But you are correct. We will have to tread carefully to make sure we don't run afoul of any local jurisdiction and the appropriate laws there.
At the right scale, it's definitely possible to get up to that level. I mean, just looking at it step by step, the U.S. market is $100 to $200 billion in temp labor. If we could only capture the U.S. market and the U.S. market alone, it would make GigKloud an incredibly successful company. If we expand and capture global market, now you're talking about a $500 billion market. There's an unending amount of opportunity there.
Ultimately, regulation is not going to stop GigKloud from growing and moving into every country in the world, because there's always a way to adapt to the local regulations. Like, for example, in Japan, they didn't want Uber in Japan. They only allowed those with licensed taxi medallions to use the Uber. So you could be a regular taxi driver, but you could also drive for Uber. But a regular person couldn't drive for Uber. So there may be modifications.
Since this is the first time I talk to people in a startup, how long does it take to go public? Like a decade or more?
That's a great question. Yeah. I've never gone public before. Many startups, the startups that do make it to going public, it can range anywhere from 8 to 10 to 15 years. Mm-hmm. You have companies that do it really quickly, and you have companies that do it slowly. It really comes down to the founder's vision and the founder's vision as to where they want to take the company. I can tell you that our purpose here with this company is to either go public or to get acquired by one of our big competitors, Robert Half, Manpower Group, or Adecco Group. These are multi-billion, $30 billion companies, and they're our primary competitors, but they're so large, they're elephants, and we're bees. And, an elephant is not a threat to a bee, but a bee can surely annoy the hell out of an elephant to the point where that elephant wants to pay you to go away. So that's our goal.
There's a really, there's I know obviously you asked the question initially about an IPO. But with startup investments, there are multiple exit opportunities. There's acquisition, there's merger, and these, and there are new avenues for companies to go public much sooner than traditionally. The opportunity exists for acquisition by one of those large competitors, primarily, first and foremost, because we are a small, agile tech company. They are not. They are behemoths in terms of headcount and bureaucracy and red tape. They will never be able to move as fast as a startup can. So we could get to a point where we're capturing market share faster than they can actually spin up a product to compete with ours. And at that point, the smart move on a corporate end is to buy your competition and roll them under your umbrella.
Yeah, those are the opportunities, and I can just say that Joseph and we're looking to create those opportunities.
Approximately, how many people have been working from both sides
on
total?
On GigKloud, like in our company, or on the platform?
Yeah, no, like getting jobs and being connected.
So we have 100 beta testers, and we have 6 clients that are posting on a regular basis.
What is beta testers? Like?
Sorry, the beta testers are the pool of workers that we have here in New York City. We limited access to the app to 100 people, 100 actual workers. Uh-huh. So all the 6 clients that we have now, they're being serviced by the 100 workers that have access to the app.
Oh, great, thank you.
Sure.
And of course, that was all part of our pilot. We've worked out the bugs. We've worked out, we've improved client retention and increased the average spend of each client. And now we're at a point where, okay, let's expand. Let's bring this to LA. Let's bring this to San Francisco. Let's bring this to Austin, Texas. Let's bring it to Miami. But we don't have the funds or the manpower to do that. And that's why we're on Wefunder right now.
That sales growth opportunity, that the growth projection that you see on the Wefunder page, it'll show what our ideal customer base looks like with 25 more customers, 50 more customers, 100 more customers, and how we get on that roadmap to hitting, as William said before, $3 million in GMV. For anyone who's not familiar, GMV is the metric used by marketplaces to show total dollars transacted across the platform. From that, you pull our revenue out of at that 33% margin, so 32% margin. So, there's as William said, like moving to these new locations and continuing to target our ideal customer. We know the metrics. We know the amount of money it's going to cost to acquire those customers. We just need the resources to go out and do it. And we're finding that in under 3 months, any cost to acquire a customer is recouped. So as long as we're doing our part to ensure that customer is serviced properly and is happy with the service that we provide them, the lifetime value of the client extends, and past 2.7 months, that becomes pure revenue off of that customer. And it's those numbers are they're incredibly good for a startup as early in the game as we are. It's not uncommon to see that at 6 months or more. So for us to be under 3 months is an incredibly good number for a startup at our stage.
Hey Joe, just one last item. I'm kind of piggybacking over the last few things. Can you just talk about the runway a little on, you mentioned potentially additional funding in 18 months or so. I assume this round here covers your sales team to generate that 100 clients. Is that kind of the runway, and then further expansion? Or, obviously if you're operating pretty lean right now, I imagine that most of the incremental cost is salaries based. So
yeah, good question.
Yeah, I can take that question. So we are fairly confident that we're going to sell out on Wefunder. And I base that off of the other deals that are on Wefunder right now, how they look and how they're, where we compare with them. The projections that I put in the campaign are in the event that we only conservatively raise 500,000. And if we raise 500,000 and we apply 40% of that to building out a sales team, it would allow us the runway to get to 100 clients, not counting the other costs, and achieving 100 clients based off of our current average spend per client is what allows us to estimate our annualized GMV at that point and estimate our annualized our annualized revenue at that point. So we're not predicting 5 years out. We're just predicting, hey, if we raise 500,000, this is exactly what we're going to do with it. We know that each client is going to cost us $2,700. So we know that 400,000, 40% of
40% of 500,000.
The 200,000 that we spend on client acquisition, we know that that's going to generate 100 clients, and we know what those clients are going to spend. So we try to do it in a very conservative manner. Although, like I said, maybe I'm just feeling happy. I think we're going to sell out the Wefunder campaign. I think we're going to max out at the 1,070,000, and those projections are just going to be sweeter than that.
As far as like continued runway, one of the toward the end of your question, Kevin, I think you asked about the potential to raise again down the line. The capital that we'll generate in this raise will absolutely take us to the 12 to 18 month window for sure, and that is not just a result of the total dollars, but really a result of William and my operational viewpoint that a lean business is much more nimble and much more valuable, and the quicker that we can move with a small team, the better off we'll be. At the point where we could choose to raise a further round of funding, whether it's 12 to 18 months from now or longer, that will be for what is referred to as growth capital. Right now, we're in a really unique spot where we've proved that we have proof of concept. We know that there are customers out there who need what we're doing. We know that there are workers out there who have the desire and the need to find jobs on a platform like this. Where we're headed, where these resources will take us, is to what startup ecosystem venture investors call product market fit. It will get us to a point where we can say definitively, this is the exact customer we need. This is exactly how much it costs to get them. And if we had $1 million, $5 million, $10 million, it will yield X number of customers and Y revenue. And if that raise comes to fruition, it will be the difference. It'll be a deciding factor. It'll be the difference of, do we grow slow and steady and move deep into one particular industry and become known as, okay, GigKloud is the go-to for warehousing, shipping, logistics, manufacturers, anybody that requires warehouse workers, they go to GigKloud. We could do that. We could do that slow, we could do it steady, and we can grow an incredibly successful company that way. We can continue even faster with growth capital and attack multiple markets, multiple verticals, multiple industries simultaneously. It's just a strategic decision on the direction of the company and how much fuel do you want to pour on the fire.
All right. Well, I just want to say, look, thank you guys this is a very long call. Thank you for enduring it. Thank you for all your great questions.
Hey, William.
Is that you, Brooks?
It was. So on the Wefunder page, I briefly described what's absolutely true in the big picture. So, why did I invest this much money? And it's a lot of money to me. My view as an investor, I invest in people. If you look at my LinkedIn page, you'll see some of the opportunities I've invested in. Model of the company is always vital. It's very important. But if the executor and the decision maker and the person hiring the key strategic people in the growth stage is not up to par, it doesn't matter what the model is. It's not going to come to market. It's a waste of your money. I've known William for half my life. I'm 34. I've known him since I was a teenager. I've watched him with everything he's done in his life. I've watched him make decisions. I've watched him execute. And that is the reason I've invested that much money. And it's a lot of money. I work about 100 hours a week in 5 days, and I think William works more. So thank you, everyone that came to the call. And I cannot speak highly enough of William. And one of his best decisions he's made with GigKloud is hiring Joseph. And the results are proof in the pudding. So I'll end it there, and great call.
Thank you, Brooks.
Thank you, Brooks.
Great.
Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.